Welcome back to the Eric Krown Crypto channel. Wishing you a happy healthy start to this nice macro Sunday morning. It's a beautiful macro Sunday morning. It's absolutely fucking frigid outside. Even the sea is freezing over right now. And we have a lot of new things to discuss actually today, which is hopefully going to make it a little bit more interesting for more long-term minded people. Even some hopium as well, of which whenever we talk about hopium or doomium for that matter, needs to be supported with statistical evidence as to why that is worth even speaking about. So other than that, I should let you know that Bybit still has their promotion going on. They got 0% on maker fees for the people who are like still trading this market, like the 5 people who are still trading, with the link in the description below, and then also some sort of a massive deposit bonus. Of course, there, as always, comes a lot of terms and conditions with that, so educate yourself on that if you're so interested. All right, sweet. So let's just jump right on into it. I want to waste no more time, and I want to get into the deep and down and dirty and big data here. So first and foremost, we've spoken about the accumulation and distribution indicator on this channel many a time in the past. If you've been on this channel even for a few weeks now, you've probably heard me mention it quite a few times, but we've only spoken about it on the monthly time frame. What I want to be going through now is the weekly time frame, of which we've observed, or I've observed, which I'm now sharing with you, a very interesting setup here, where anytime that we've seen the weekly accumulation distribution indicator get down, what the hell is going on? Stupid phone, stop it. Can't be having all these sort of nonsense messages blowing up. It's like Discord's fucking blowing up. Stop tagging me. Stop tagging me, please. In this case, yes, anytime that we've seen the accumulation and distribution indicator get down towards this green horizontal bar and then turn from there, aka getting a positive slope, we've seen in the past, of which the full history is recorded here of Bitcoin, the past 13 years almost, there's been an average gainer of about 49, just over 49%. The average time taken from that first tick up to the next major high has been on average, again, about 71 days. So there is some variance in this data. And for the actual average gain, I did exclude the first 2 iterations here in 2011 and 2012 respectively, because the numbers are just astronomically high compared to everything else, 232% and 140% almost, respectively, where all the other ones are in double digits, like mid double digits, basically. So as you can see, the most recent iteration of this was back on over in late June. And it was actually the least impressive one as well. It was 34.25% almost. So that was a little bit on the bottom side of the outlier-ish region, but when you look at the data, I'd say it's still reasonable. If we were to look at this from a first standard deviation perspective for the average gain, that would give us a range between 39.25% all the way up to almost 60%. And time-wise, it would, again, give us some variance here between about 50 days to 90 days. So again, going into the actual data, as you can see, we've actually started to see this one curl up for the first time in a while now after the old FTX Dumpola party. And so that already is the setup, if you will. And so if we actually zero in on the data, we can get both kind of a presumed time, a time range at least, and then also a potential, potential gains gains bias as well. So in this case, if we are measuring from that point, we are already about 20 to 30 days within this current setup. And again, on average, we expect basically somewhere between 50 to 90 days. So 50 days puts us at basically the beginning of January, so the first week of January, and 90 days would put us, of course, basically like the middle of February. So sometime between the early January portion and the middle of February portion, we expect this move to play out, and we are looking for, well, not necessarily we're looking for, not we, I don't know who the fuck you are and what you're trying to do, and I'm not even playing this to begin with myself. I play lower term time frames. I'm like not looking at anything much above an hour for the most part with my actual trading, but in this case, we can get some areas of interest for the average gain. So I'd like to take both ends of the first standard deviation, kind of like a like a reasonable, I would say worst case scenario, but like a reasonable lower bound and then a reasonable upper bound. So 40% from that low would put Bitcoin, like the $22,500 region, 22 to 22.5 or so. If it goes for a really amazing move right there, almost 60%, that would put Bitcoin basically around the summer highs at 25,000 or so. So sometime between January to February. I'm probably looking for something, into the low, maybe even mid $20,000 territory, assuming that this does still hold. What would invalidate it? Well, the invalidation would obviously be a weekly closure below the current wick low, which is like 15,500 or so. So do keep that in mind. And again, that's very consistent with what we've been saying on this channel in the sense that, hey, the downside for the short term is probably done for now. I'm not saying that it can't come down again longer term. There's plenty of charts that suggest that it certainly can. But if it does happen, and if Bitcoin is going to make another attempt at a new low, it probably happens, around the end of first quarter of 2023 would be my best guess. So that is saying the short term, I just don't think that Bitcoin's going to be making new lows exactly from here. I think it's more reasonable to be looking for a bounce. So let's see what else could potentially corroborate that story. So we'll go over here to another chart that I've almost never spoken about. And this is the monthly for Bitcoin. And we're specifically looking at the Joule indicator, which is in the bottom pane right here. Hey, let me fucking zero one on you, bitch. There we go. Sorry, say that with respect. With all the respect. Yes, we respect our charts, TradingView. Anyways, so a couple things of interest right here. Whenever we've seen the monthly Joule turn white in this extreme zone, well, it's only happened twice in Bitcoin's history, so it's not really much of a history to be going off of here. But those have been, some pretty damn good macro lows. We've marked them off right here and right here. What do you know? Bitcoin is actually basically, or sorry, not Bitcoin, but the Joule on Bitcoin for the monthly is basically at that same region as well. So as of right now, it's still dark blue. It hasn't turned white just yet. So when it does turn white, probably a good indication that we're going to be entering into at least a multi-month bounce. And in these cases, the last two were macro lows. So, could it be as well? Definitely possible. If you want some line drawing action, then we'd kind of be meeting somewhat of a regression between these 2 points. As usual, the old lines like, bro, you lose this line, you're losing this line, bro. It's gonna be lights out. You don't want to see what happens when you lose the line. Drawing lines in my chart. It's like, for fuck's sake, of course I draw lines as well, but I do think that some people take it little bit extreme. I mean, they're just fucking lines after all. Anyways, okay, so we got through that. We've gotten through that. Let's now go into not Bitcoin, but Dixie here. And so we called a top on Dixie a while ago. That was back on over in mid to late October. Took some time, obviously, being that it was a weekly. This was based off of volatility reads, based off of divergence, and Joule actually as well in the weekly. But I believe that this reversal does come now into the monthly, actually. And I would be looking for this one, over the course of December and January to very likely play down somewhere between about 101 to 102 and try for a bounce somewhere right around there. What's interesting about the monthly right here is that the monthly BBWP, again representing volatility, is starting to go into a contraction phase after a nice big girthy green dildo party to the upside. And then also we do have some regular bearish divergence forming between the highs of 2015 and the highs that we just saw right here. So I do suspect that this one does reach further down. There's going to be bounce along the way. We're talking about a fucking monthly, not a goddamn daily at the end of the day. So of course there's going to be bounce along the way. It's like anytime I talk about this, someone's always like, dude, you're such an idiot. It's going up right now. It's like, you're on the fucking 5-minute mountain. Relax. It's all good, man. Just fucking relax. I know that we're all poor now because Bitcoin's in the gutter, but fucking relax. Just kidding. Anyways, yeah, we also do have a downside signature on the monthly Joule right here. And while I would be looking for a bounce between like 101 and 102, if and when things do get down around there, there's definitely potential for more as well. But I would be looking for a bounce around there. So, okay, now that we've gone through that, I want to actually reference something that Charles Edwards posted on Twitter. He's one of like the few fundamental guys that I follow, because I think most of like the fundamental on-chain stuff is just absolute fucking bullshit. Sorry, with respect. It's got a lot of lines drawn on it. But over here, I did think that this was rather interesting. So this is the entity adjusted long-term hold NUPL. So this is net unrealized profit and loss. And, we're at extremes here. We're at extreme levels that you typically see during market capitulation events. Yes, it's not like super, super egregiously below those levels like we have seen in 2014 and 2015, nor even 2019. but you know, it's around there. So that's why I do say, hey, we're very likely closer to a major low, maybe even a macro low, definitely possible, than not. So I just wanted to bring that up as kind of like a different means of looking at this. And then we can get into, I don't want to talk about the monthly accumulation distribution indicator. You already know about that. It does still say that, hey, maybe we don't have the low end long term, definitely possible. But now what I want to get into is a little bit more Bitcoin action over here. So let's just go back to it. Weekly is going to be closing today, and weekly is going to have a chance to confirm regular bullish divergence, which is, you know, we haven't seen in a very long time, in a very, very long time. So in this case, you know, I'd be looking at that as a mostly good, you know, mostly a corroborating signal that we probably do see some upside tries. The weekly jewel might swing around even for a perfect signal here as well, which would be massively powerful, but that's still weeks away, if that. And the weekly volatility is at some extreme lows that we just haven't seen, you know, very many times in Bitcoin's history. So we're looking at this as a nice big base first and foremost. One of the sayings that my mentor had always repeated to me was, you know, don't short a dull market, or don't sell a dull market short. Yeah, that's it. Don't sell a dull market short. And it's kind of a dull market right here. I mean, volatility is, you know, extremely fucking low, which you probably noticed just by looking at Bitcoin, even over the last few days here, where it's literally like watching paint dry. All right, sweet. So we've got that. Let's go check out weekly stochastic momentum, seeing as that one's going to be closing today. And the current pivot is 17,450. Actually, that's on CME. So that one actually already closed below. Spot price action is just a couple $100 above there. So what I'm mostly interested in this is seeing what it comes into, what the next tick is when we get the weekly closure. Does this number come down significantly? Like, let's say below 17, that's going to be another good indication that we're probably going to see, you know, a greater bounce emerge from this region. Now we can just briefly go over the lower term timeframes. I got a shit ton of questions about this indicator, the HPDR, historical price delta range, when I spoke about it for the first time the other day. Look, we're gonna release it probably this week, but you know, just I understand people are excited, but just we'll give out the information when we give out the information. Right now, we're kind of working out some of the kinks with it and whatnot, and of course, it'll come with a couple of strategies as well. I've actually already worked that through, back tested it, and all that good stuff. But for right now, I just want to talk about it in pure terms as to kind of getting an idea of where our current range is. So when I go over here, you know, we can use this on a 4, we can use this on an hourly basically. And this is actually even still on CME, but ultimately gives us some good confluence as to where we expect, you know, major pivots within this market right now. If you're on the 4-hour time frame, below still about 16,500 or 16,600, big problems. This starts to look like a bull trap. Or at least I'd be looking for a return back down to the prior weekly range lows, that being somewhere between like 16 to 15. Something like that, probably lower, probably on the lower end of that spectrum. And by the same token, you know, as long as Bitcoin holds here, I think that we're witnessing kind of, it's not really a bear trap, but it is a bear trap because, you know, I think a lot of people are looking at this as like a shortable event. Anyways, if we go over here to spot price, actually, it's more or less the same thing as far as I'm concerned. But if we go down to the hourly range, I think this one's actually a little bit more interesting in the short term, as it would kind of give us a good setup for, if we can actually load it, because it always takes a fucking hour to load because there's just too many damn calculations. Un momento, por favor, sirs and zers. Come on, baby. Stop. There we go. Yeah, we can see. You can see actually the title range probably is correct here. You know, below 16,750 on an hourly closure, probably got problems for, you know, putting in a bit of a trap move back onto the bottom side of the range. By the same token, closing back above about 17,250 to 17,300, and I'd be looking at that as a good medium-term signal for Bitcoin to likely play up somewhere around $18,000. Of course, it can be pullbacks along the way as usual, but yeah, that's kind of how I see the lower term timeframes right now. We can just briefly look at low term timeframe stochastic momentum just to see where it's at. Daily remains to the upside as long as Bitcoin's closing above 16.5. It should be known though that starting to get into some pretty critical regions here. Just saying, 12-hour will turn up above 17,000, but again, kind of in the more aggressive region here. 6-hour time frame. starting to come down a little bit more, which we were looking for. 17,150 going to be the magical number. 4-hour time frame is going to be pivoted at 16.9. This one still looks kind of weak to me. So hourly, what are we looking at right here? Yeah, it's freshly turning down below 17. You know, if I had to call the lower term time frames right now, I would say the same thing that I said the last 2 days, which is exactly what we've gotten, actually. Not to like toot my own horn, but just, you know, to show what I mean by this. It's like, it's probably sideways, probably tested downside of the range. Does it actually break the downside of the range? I mean, there's going to be pressure there, obviously, but I'd still be waiting for an actual closure below the bottom side of the range. Again, that being about 16,650, 16,700, depending upon your exchange. So I think that's a good place to be leaving this one off. Again, we'll release more information about this indicator coming through this week. In the meantime, I understand you might be excited about it. That's really, really cool. That's really amazing. But just know that we're already working on it. You don't need to send like an email or tag me. It's all good. Like I assure you, the information will be there as soon as it's ready. All right, cool. Yeah, that's a good one. That's a good one to be leaving off. Hopefully that was in some way helpful. I want to be wishing you the best as always. Take care, much love, and see you hopefully soon.